Hello everyone, we're going to be talking about scale drawings today. So this is the first set of notes in our geometry unit. So the first thing that we need to talk about is what is a scale drawing. So scale drawings are types of proportional relationships. When given a scale drawing problem, you want to identify the scale and use it to find the unit rate. So for the problems that we're going to be solving today, we are going to be given a scale, like in example 1, and we're going to use it to set up a unit rate and then solve for whether we're looking for the scale miles or the actual miles. So there's a little hint right beneath that says you always want to set up your unit rate so that the units you are looking for are in the numerator. Okay, so just like when we went over unit rate, we want to make sure that we are really aware of the units that we are including in our ratio. So let's read through example 1. It says a map has a scale of 2 centimeters equal to 75 miles. If two cities are 11 centimeters apart on the map, how far apart are they in miles? Okay, so the question is, how should we set up our unit rate? Well, we need to think about what we are looking for unit-wise. Okay, so let's first go through and highlight some key information here. So we have our scale, right? This is our scale. Okay. And we are given the distance between two cities on a map. Okay, so that's centimeters. Now the question is, how far apart are they in miles? So what are we looking for? We're looking for miles. Okay, so if we're going to set this up, we're going to first look at our scale. Okay, so since we are looking for miles and not centimeters, miles need to go on top when we set up our unit rate. So we're going to set it up 75 over 2. So that is miles over centimeters. Okay? So when we take 75 and we divide by 2 and we get that unit rate, that would reduce to 37.5 over 1. Because remember, unit rate is always the denominator of 1. Okay, so that is essentially saying it's 37.5 miles per every 1 centimeter. Okay? All right, so from here, we are going to take that unit rate that we just calculated and we're going to multiply it by the distance between those two cities on the map. So we're going to multiply by 11 over 1. Okay? So when we multiply that out, remember when we multiply two fractions, we multiply straight across. So we're essentially just doing 37.5 times 11, and we would get 412.5. Now, be careful, what are your units here? You really need to specify. Your units would be miles. All right, so that is all we are doing in problem 1. All right, let's look at problem 2. Okay, sorry if that's a little crooked. All right, the floor plan of a house was drawn using the scale 3 centimeters to 4.5 meters. Find the actual length of the living room if it is 5 centimeters on the drawing. All right, so once again, let's go through and kind of look at what is given to us here. So our scale, we're given 3 centimeters to 4.5 meters. And in this case, we are looking for the actual length. So you really need to think about which of those units makes the most sense when we are actually measuring a living room. Are we measuring our actual living room in centimeters or meters? For this case, we are using meters because we don't live in a dollhouse. So it would be meters over centimeters. Okay, so when we set that up and we're looking at our scale, we would put 4.5 or 4.5 on top, and we would put 3 on the bottom. All right, so when we do that division, when we calculate that unit rate, we would get 1.5 over 1. Okay, so that's essentially saying it's 1.5 meters for every 1 centimeter. Okay. Now, we are going to then take the scale amount that was given to us. So if the scale drawing was 5 centimeters for that length of the living room, we would take that and multiply it by 1.5. So 1.5 times 5 would give us a total of 7.5 meters. Okay? All right. So let's look at number 3. Okay, number 3. On a map, 1/2 centimeter equals 65 kilometers. If China and New Sweden are 4.5 centimeters apart on the map, how far apart are they really? Okay, so we are given this scale, and what are we looking for? How far apart they really are. So we're looking for the actual, right? So when we set this up, we are going to set it up kilometers over centimeters because this is actual over the scale. So when we put in our numbers, now we are going to have 65 over 1/2. Okay, so if we take 65 and we divide by 1/2, we're essentially multiplying by 2, right? Because we're multiplying by that reciprocal. So when we get that unit rate, it would be 130 over 1. And once I have that unit rate, I'm going to take it and multiply it by the scale value of 4.5. And when I multiply all of that out, I would get a total of 585 kilometers as my answer. All right. Okay. So then looking at numbers 4 and 5, let's take a look at number 4 first. So number 4, the floor plan of a house is drawn using a scale of 2/3 inches equals 8 feet. What is the length of the basement if it is 2.5 inches long on the floor plan? So here's our scale. Okay, what are we actually looking for in this one? Okay, well, they give us the 2.5 inches, so that means that we are looking for feet, right? So we're looking for the actual amount. So when I set up my unit rate, I'm going to put feet on top, and I'm going to put inches on the bottom. So let's go ahead and substitute in our numbers. So I'm going to put 8 on top, and I'm going to put 2/3 on the bottom. Now, we're getting back into those complex fractions. So remember, when you are doing complex fractions, you're actually going to multiply by the reciprocal. So we can take 8 and put it over 1, and then we're going to change our division to multiplication and multiply by that reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 2/3 would be 3/2. And then when we multiply all of that out, we would get 24 over 2, which gives you 12. All right. Okay, so we're not finished, okay, because we still need to take that unit rate and we need to multiply it by the amount that was given to us for the model, for the scale. Okay, so we're going to take 12 and we're going to multiply by 2.5. And when we do that, we would get a total of 30 feet. Okay. All right, last one. On the blueprints of a house, the master bedroom has dimensions 4 inches by 5.5 inches. If the scale of the prints is 3/4 inch equals 3 feet, what are the actual dimensions of the master bedroom? So what are we looking for here? Well, it says clearly that we're looking for the actual. Okay, so when we are doing this, we are going to set it up so that our feet are on top and our inches are on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to substitute that in, and I'm going to put 3 over 3/4. Okay, so once again, we have a complex fraction. So we need to multiply by that reciprocal. So we're going to take 3 over 1 and multiply by 4/3. When we multiply straight across, I would get 12 over 3, or 12/3, and that would reduce to 4. Okay, so that is my unit rate. Okay, and now I need to take this, and since I'm looking for the dimensions, that means there's going to be 2 dimensions, okay, length and width. So I'm going to take my unit rate, and I'm going to multiply it by my first dimension, by 4. So 4 times 4 gives me 16. And then I'm going to take that second dimension and also multiply it by my unit rate. So 4 times 5.5, which would give me 22. So the dimensions of this room then would be 16 feet by 22 feet. All right. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask during class time tomorrow. We will continue to practice this in class. See you then.